Welcome to The Becks, a podcast that explores multimedia horror with hosts Becky and Sydney. Join us as we talk about movies, books, video games, music, and much, much more.
Welcome back. My name is Sydney Rebecca.
And I'm Rebecca Snow.
And we're the Becks.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. So we're talking about two things today. The first is a game called Eve, kind of like Eve, E-V-E, but I-B. It's a Japanese game, which is why the name is a little bit unusual for us Western audiences. But it is a survival adventure horror game. This was a game that I first discovered back when I watched YouTubers in like 2013, 2014 or whatever. And somebody named Markiplier played this game. And I thought it was so cute. Terrifying, but cute. And
there were some jump scares, yeah.
Yeah, I actually liked it so much that I played it. And at the time it was a free game. You just had to download a very sketchy zip file, but it wasn't it wasn't harmful. It was fine. It all worked out in the end. But I remembered it kind of randomly, and I told Becky about it, and we decided to do an episode about it. And it was because they remade it, and it came out on the Switch, which we both have, so.
Yes. And I'm not a gamer, just so everyone is very well aware of this. Didn't have video games growing up because, well, we were poor, and I was born in the 70s. And I play Mario now, and I did back, probably a couple times when I was a teenager, so. Games are always a little bit of a challenge for me, but it was super fun, and I really enjoyed it. My son's girlfriend helped me through a couple spots, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
So the original game, published in 2012, it is considered a cult classic now. It was a critical success in Japan. People loved it, but it got a lot of love overseas. I don't know if it's because people, because Markiplier is pretty big on YouTube, so I don't know if that was part of the reason why it got bigger here in the United States. So it's a top-down horror game. It's pixelated. They use little sprites to show us what the characters look at. And you can, at any time, you can open up your inventory and see, the bigger, more detailed versions of the characters. So it follows a little girl who is 9. She goes to this art museum with her parents. And, sorry, the dogs are going crazy, so Becky's glaring at me. And they're showing art by this artist named Cortana. And he does multiple mediums, so he does paintings, sculptures, interactive pieces, all that stuff. And, at first the museum is full of people, but then things start to go a little bit wrong. So this was entirely, your first time experiencing it. So I really want to know what your thoughts were, Becky, because, like I said, I knew about this game. I played it before.
No, I thought it was super fun. Lots of, challenging little puzzles to get through it. I did not expect to, actually have real jump scares in it where I actually screamed and was like, whoa! For, I would say, the type of game it is, the little pixelations and everything, it was just super cool because it had a lot of really neat little, I don't know, do I want to say idiosyncrasies? Just really cool little things that were placed in there, spoiler alert, the hands coming out of the wall. And the little hints that it gave you that you needed to pay attention, and I don't. So I was grabbed by a few hands here and there. It really kept me engaged through the whole thing. I played it the first night. I finished it in 2 nights because I just sat and played it. Like I said, my son's girlfriend, Lauren, she helped me out. And she was like, I love puzzle games. So anytime something came up that I was stumped on, she would help me work through it and figure out where to go. But it really kind of impressed me. When I first saw it, I was like, and I literally said, oh, it's not very good graphics. It's one of these games. But, I had a great time playing it.
You don't trust me?
No, I trust you. But I was like, oh. But I had an awesome time. And I was laughing and jumping and getting frustrated because I couldn't figure out where to go or what to do. Got a pretty good ending, though. I was pretty happy with it for the most part. A little sad, but for the most part, I made it out alive.
It was one of the better endings. Yeah. So there's actually, speaking of which, is 7 total endings.
I know. I'm ready to play it again.
Most of which are terrible.
I want a terrible one just to see.
Yeah. So, yeah, the whole thing is she gets, the lights go out and she gets trapped in this museum, and what used to just be innocent art pieces kind of twist and change and become disturbing and alive, and they want her to stay very badly.
Yes.
And at first, she very much thinks that she's alone. And I think the game does a really good job showing how isolated Eve is. It feels very empty and scary. It's like, it really puts you in her shoes. Like, yeah, you're an adult playing it, but it's like, okay, if I was a 9-year-old girl stuck in this really creepy art museum and stuff's coming alive, and, it's scary. It's scary to think about. And it's very effective for what it is.
It is. I liked how, because it takes a while to really start the game. You're wandering around, you're looking at everything, and you're checking out all the art exhibits, and for a little bit, I was like, okay, what's going to happen? Is something going to happen? This is ridiculous. And then the lights flicker. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it took another light flicker. And then everybody was gone. It was just like gone. Like I'm standing there. Well, my character's standing there. She's standing there. And they're all gone. And then you are, like you said, completely isolated. A 9-year-old little girl in this huge art museum gallery. Nobody's around. Just parents gone. Everybody, and there were tons of people in it. Yeah. They're just gone. It was a little disturbing. It's like, okay, now what? Yeah, I would be terrified. Yeah. I would be terrified as an adult if I turned around and there was no one there anymore, let alone a 9-year-old child.
I mean, museums are kind of almost like a liminal space, right? Like they're public spaces, but they don't feel populated if no one is there. I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, but it's like, okay, you can tell when a house is lived in. Like, museums aren't like that.
No, they're kind of stark and cold because everything comes in and everything goes out. It's not
and it's about the art purely. Like, nothing else. You're just there to appreciate the art and be moved in a direction, and then you leave.
Yeah, there's like no comforts there, Yeah, you'll have seats or whatever that you can sit and relax in, like when we've gone to the art galleries, but they're hard benches. It's not like there's a nice cozy couch that you can, cuddle up on and be like, okay, here I am. I'm comfy. I'm just going to check out this art piece. Most art galleries don't have those.
Yeah, unless there's really fancy ones that we're missing.
Yes, and if there are, let us know, because I want to go there.
That would be cool. So like I said, this is a really cute game, too. And eventually, you find a red rose that you pick up. And this is how they kind of categorize your health or hit points or, whatever you want to say it. So obviously, as a 9-year-old girl, this is not about fighting the monsters. There's no fighting. There's running away and there's outsmarting things. Because what is a 9-year-old going to do in reality? Okay? Nothing. She's going to run away. She can't, she's little. She's just a child. You do, however, eventually run into someone else who's trapped in the same situation. And he is much worse off than Eve is. Eve kind of figures some stuff out. I mean, you as Eve figure some stuff out. When Eve finds this character, his name is Gary, his rose had been taken away from him. And in this portion of the game, to move on, you have to retrieve his rose, bring it back to life using a vase and giving it to him. And he becomes kind of your companion. And this is, they don't explicitly say what his age is, but he's obviously older. He's an adult.
Yeah.
And he kind of takes Eve under his wing, even though she still kind of takes the lead on everything as the main character,
He spends a lot of time trying to keep her from taking the lead. Like, he wants her to, hold back a little bit and not explore certain places, too, at times. Because he's a little afraid that she's going to get hurt, I think. The big thing is he's protecting her.
Yeah. And he obviously has more of an idea as the adult in the situation what the danger actually is. I mean, he came really close to death. In fact, one of the endings that you get, Gary becomes one of the art pieces. And he's dead in the picture, but Eve just says that he looks like he's sleeping if you click on it. Yeah, so she doesn't know. She doesn't really know.
Yeah.
But Gary does.
Yeah.
And so as soon as he finds her and realizes, okay, like, he's happy that he's not alone, but he's also devastated that it's a child in there with him.
Yeah.
And so as time goes on, he becomes more and more protective of Eve. And he will actually sacrifice himself in bad endings if you choose poor decisions.
So glad I didn't do that. I'd have been sad.
Yeah, so that Eve can escape, can survive. So he eventually joins up with Eve, and he is actually able to move things out of the way. One thing that I love, it was such a cute detail, is that when you're exploring the museum at first, there's lots of, like, question marks where certain words are. Because Eve is just a kid. She doesn't understand what some of the words are. Well, when Gary joins in on the adventure, he's able to tell her what the missing words are.
Yep. I thought that was cute, too.
And I don't know if you explored all the bookshelves.
I did a lot of them.
Okay, because there was one where there was obviously, like, a dirty, smutty novel.
Yes, he said...
He's like, put that away. He wouldn't tell her what the words were. It was so funny.
Yes, we laughed on that one.
Really cute detail. So he'll, during certain, because you can talk to Gary at any time, but during certain parts of the games, he can give Eve a piece of candy to make her feel better. If you say, oh, I had a nightmare or, something like that. He'll give her a coat to keep her warm, which you as the player can choose to return to him. That actually gives you some relationship points. So a big aspect of the game is trying to get the best ending, right? The best ending, to get that, you have to have really, really good relationship with Gary. You have to talk to him as often as you can. And there's different little, like, dialogue options that you can choose to improve your relationship with him. Because to save him, he has to, or not to save him, but, like, to reunite with him after they escape, he has to remember her and he needs her handkerchief to remember her by. But you can only give it to him if your relationship is really, really good.
Yeah.
Which neither of us succeeded at in our playthroughs, which is so sad.
And like I told you, I really struggled with giving him my handkerchief because at the beginning of the game, Eve's mother says, keep this with you at all times. Mm-hmm. So I really struggled. I'm like, do I give him my handkerchief? But he was hurt. So I was like, I'm going to do it. He's been the protector. And he gave it right back to me. I was so devastated.
I was like, close enough. He didn't feel like he could take it and be vulnerable. So I don't want to give too much away, though, because, like I said, there are multiple endings, and just the characters are full of life in a unique way. Because, again, it's kind of a simple game. It's not very long. You could beat it in about 2 hours. You know, it's not like a hardcore RPG that you could spend 700 hours on. It's not like that. So I really encourage people to purchase this game. I think you can even still get the old version for free online. It's just it doesn't have updated graphics or music or anything like that. It's risky because, again, it is a sketchy zip file. Like I said, if it's still out there, I don't know. But I did, when I saw that they remade it, I was like, oh, that's cool. And as someone who's played the old one and the remade version, they added stuff to the remake. I mean, it's still largely the same game. It's not a different game or anything, but they added little things, little Easter eggs that you can find, artwork that you can unlock, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot to it with the artwork and stuff. There's a lot in the game, and like you said, it's simple. And I am not a gamer, and I finished it in a couple sit downs at night after work with my son's girlfriend. We sat there and played, and it was over pretty quickly, but there was a lot to look at, a lot to see, a lot to interact with. And it's actually, at first I was like, oh man, $14 for this game? But I had a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to playing it again to see what ending I get.
Yeah, it has a lot of replayability to it. Again, it's interesting because it is just a short little game. So one thing I want to just touch on is, okay, so you really feel isolated at first. Eve's all alone. Then you find Gary, and it is such a relief to find him. Like, even though it's just, again, it's just these little sprite people, it's like, okay, you immediately feel better because somebody's with you.
Yeah.
But then later on, you get separated from him again, and it's the worst.
Yeah, it's no good.
It's the worst. Like, it feels terrible. Like,
Yeah.
and you don't expect it to, because, again, it's just this simple little game. But it's like, Eve is really scared.
Gary is very scared.
Gary's really scared.
His anxiety, you can almost feel it from the dialogue. He's upset. He's worried about her, and he tells himself, I shouldn't have let her go. And yeah, it's kind of disturbing.
Yeah,
it's like, oh no.
It's a very harrowing part of the game, and it does get the puzzles and everything. They do get more difficult as the game goes on. When I first played it, I had to look up playthrough stuff because I got stuck. This time around, I remembered what I had to do, so I didn't get stuck this time. But yeah,
I looked up stuff.
It happens. The puzzles can be really hard.
There were a couple times where it was just like, what am I doing? What am I supposed to be looking for? What is going on? And I just needed just that extra little oomph to push me along to figure it out. But yeah, it is challenging. It's not super easy. If you haven't played it before and you don't know, there are some spots where you could get stuck and just be wandering around in circles trying to figure it out like I did.
So yeah, this is definitely a hidden gem for me. It's worth playing. It's worth picking up. I'm gonna try to get all the endings. Might be achievement or something to have all the endings. And obviously, like I said, there's more things to unlock and different ways to play. So, and I want that good ending where Gary remembers her at the end for sure.
And I want a bad ending just to see what happens because I haven't played it before.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if this would take up a whole episode, so we actually, I remembered a movie that Netflix released a few years ago, I think it was 2019, called Velvet Buzzsaw, which is about a haunted art. I don't want to say it haunted museum, because that wasn't really the case.
No, it's definitely haunted art.
It was the art,
right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it stars Jake Gyllenhaal, and let me pull up my notes for that because I don't. John Malkovich is in it.
Yeah,
it's kind of a star-studded cast for.
Yeah, there are quite a few well-known names in this movie. I was surprised.
Toni Collette, who's amazing. She's an amazing actress.
She is.
I don't know if anybody listening has seen the movie Hereditary. We'll never watch that movie ever again. She's incredible in it, but that movie was fricked up.
That is a terrifying movie.
But anyway, so she's in it too. The acting immediately was a super standout to me. Like I said, Jake Gyllenhaal is incredible in this movie.
He really is.
Basically what it's about is this whole collection of people who work in the art industry. They're curators for a museum, they're artists, they're critics, etc. And one of the characters, the main character, who's the receptionist, obviously not super happy in her position. She wants to climb the ladder. She's not treated well by the people that she works through. She ends up finding out that her neighbor passed away. She finds his body, and she learns from the people who are in charge of like getting this guy's stuff out of the apartment that he was an artist and that his dying wish was for all the art to be destroyed. Well, obviously she's super intrigued by this, and she made the unique decision to break into his apartment to go and look at it.
Yes, she did.
So one thing you notice right away in this movie, all these characters are terrible people.
They're awful.
With the exception of one character, but
yes.
she's
Well, I found myself conflicted about Jake Gyllenhaal's character because it was almost like you loved to hate him.
Yeah.
Like, he had goodness in him. You could see it.
He had integrity as an art critic.
He did.
Yeah.
For a while. But he was just lovable. But, yeah, there was a lot there that those people were just awful. Yeah. Very self-absorbed, very all about them.
Yeah, which you see when this receptionist, she's like, okay, I could profit off this art. So she steals it and shows it to Morph, who is Jake Gyllenhaal's character's name. Morph for some reason. And he thinks it's incredible. And she's like, okay, well, we need to showcase this. Like, we can make money off this. Like, this is my big break. I don't have to be a receptionist anymore. So let's get it out there. But the art is, and I mean, it is captivating. So one thing I do want to say, which is really cool, is Netflix actually found an up-and-coming artist on Instagram, and they commissioned him to do the art for this film.
Really? I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The art pieces are they're pretty striking, I think, some of them.
They're very cool. The artist's name is Saxon Bryce, and I really wanted to look, and it was surprisingly difficult for me to, it wasn't like surface level Google search. Like, I had to go into multiple different links to actually find this artist's name, which I think is a real shame.
Yeah, that should totally be on there. Like, art by.
Yeah, and I was looking at his recent Instagram posts, and he has like 17, 18 likes on some of his recent stuff. I know, I was just really depressed about it. So, if you guys have Instagram, you should follow Saxon Bryce because he has really good art. It's not all really disturbing stuff like they featured in Velvet Buzzsaw.
But honestly, some of the pieces really weren't. They were maybe, I don't even know how to say it. Some of them were scary. Like, when you looked at them, you could really feel the darkness in them.
Yeah,
but disturbed. I think other pieces were beautiful if you didn't know what was going on with them. If I saw those art pieces, I would think, wow, that's a pretty cool piece. It really would bring out a lot of emotions in you, for sure. Each piece was pretty striking when it came to that.
Which is why we enjoy art, is it not? It invokes many feelings. So they slowly kind of uncover why the artist in the movie wanted his art to be destroyed. The artist's name in the movie was, his name was Deese. And Morph, as an art critic, really wanted to dig into, who this guy was, he was
going to write a book.
Yeah. Oh, that's my low sugar alarm. Hang on.
I didn't feed her enough carbs before we started recording tonight, apparently.
I guess not. But
if you just hear my voice, you'll know that she just passed out, and I'll just keep talking.
Like, Sydney will come back later. Anyway, so Morph looks into it, and Deese had a really messed up life. His father was abusive. He had an extremely abusive childhood, and he actually ended up murdering his father, which, caused him to be sent to a psychiatric hospital where they did human experimentation, because of course they did. He's not traumatized enough, right? So he already had serious mental health issues. It was exacerbated by the mental institution, and when he got out, he really channeled everything into his art. Now, Deese throughout this whole movie is dead. He's dead by this point. They steal his art, etc. But it's interesting that I don't know, you really feel his presence throughout the whole movie. I don't know if it's because the director did such a good job making sure that the art was Deese. Like, that's just the feeling that you get from it. Because even with how shallow the characters are about, obtaining the art, showcasing the art, doing everything that they needed to do to, become rich and profit off of this poor dead man's stuff. Yeah. Like, I don't know, he's just very present. It's not a haunting in the way that, it's Deese's spirit that kind of manipulates the art or whatever. The art kind of takes on a life of its own as well. So
I think, isn't that the point, though? The art is what is supposed to be important and not what we all can get from the art, not what all these nasty people were doing by exploiting the art.
Yeah, no, for sure. The only reason why they got away with it is because Deese didn't have any living relatives, and
he was gone. There was nobody to represent him.
Yeah, which is pretty sick and disgusting, to be honest. And so, okay, we talked about how terrible the characters are. Let me see. They actually find out later on in the movie that Deese used his own blood for some of the paint in his pieces. And instead of being like normal people and being like, that's really fucked up and maybe we should stop doing what we're doing, they kind of are like, yeah, that's edgy. Like, it's fine. Like,
made them even more excited to exploit his works.
The intrigue of it, like, everything that... So this movie is categorized as a satirical horror comedy. Did I laugh a lot at this movie? Not really. I don't think it was really... it's not a laugh out loud comedy. It's
No.
very highbrow.
Yes. I
humor.
mean, it's more like you're just looking at these people shaking your head. Like, I don't know. I guess, yes, satirical. You're shaking your head and you're thinking, oh my God, are you serious right now? More than, like when you're laughing at people that you just don't understand sometimes because they're just way out there and you're trying to figure out what they're doing. That's what all of these characters are.
Yeah.
Like, they're just so totally out of control and so self-absorbed and so into what they want and how they're going to get famous that you're just shaking your head and kind of laughing, but not ha 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 laughing like it's funny. You're just,
right.
This is just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
There is a running gag. Early on, there's a character introduced called Coco, and she replaces the original receptionist once she kind of gets, off of her feet with the Dees collection. Everyone that Coco works for ends up dying.
That poor girl.
And every time she finds their dead body, okay? This is kind of a running gag in the movie, and I will admit, it's pretty funny.
That part was funny. I felt so bad for her.
Yeah, because she's the only character in the movie who is, like, not a totally shit person. And she's the only person in the film that
survives.
Pretty much.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, everyone dies in terrible, terrible ways.
Yeah.
Which I think part of the point of this movie is kind of commodifying art, right? Putting a price on it.
Yeah.
These people eventually are completely absorbed and killed by the art pieces that they have been profiting off of.
Yeah.
Which, could be a way of saying you can't be an outsider to true art for long before, it becomes a part of you or you get sucked into it. And I think it's kind of rich for a Hollywood movie. Because, it's a Netflix movie. It didn't have a super high budget. It was released at the Sundance Festival, etc. But it's like, it's hard for me to believe that a Hollywood studio is going to be, like, profiting off of, other people's suffering. Who would do that? A bunch of dicks. Like, okay, look in the mirror. But it still is effective in what it's trying to do.
No, it is.
I would say. And so the acting is really good. The art is really good. It's not a movie that I would watch a lot of. Like, I could see myself watching it again.
Yeah, I could see myself watching it with some people that haven't seen it before just to enjoy it again.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It wasn't something that, like, I would seek out again. Just be like, hey, oh my goodness, you need to watch this movie with me. But I enjoyed the acting tremendously, especially... Shout out to Jake Gyllenhaal. It was amazing. He did a great job in that. His character, like I said, I loved to hate him.
It's bordering, his performance is bordering on camp. I don't know how he does it, but it shouldn't work the way it is. Like, because he's... What did he say about the sofa?
He walks into the room and he's like, oh, hold on. I gotta look it up in my notes here. But he, of course, knows these things because he's an
art critic.
So he's walking around the receptionist's house, and I think they were getting upset about the art and getting it on display or something. I'm not sure what was really going on. And he walks out into, like, her front room, and she's talking about what they need to do. Oh, I think it was the opening. They were getting ready for the opening of the show.
The Dees show.
Yes, the Dees show. And so she said it was going to take her 3 hours to get ready and blah, blah, blah. And she's talking, and he walks out in her front room, and he's like, this sofa is completely too small for the ceiling height. And it's just like...
But he sells it. He sells that line. It's such a stupid line, but he sells it.
It immediately caught me. I was like, I literally was sitting here watching the movie, and I sent a text to Sydney, and I'm like, this is making me laugh right here. That part was funny. It did make me laugh right out loud. So, yeah.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal's character goes from this very, like, I would say secure, confident personality. He has a mental breakdown.
Oh, complete
the
breakdown.
Art pieces start killing people, and a pattern emerges, and he's one of the first people to be like...
He sees it.
Yeah.
He's understanding what's happening, but not really. He thinks he's losing his mind.
Yeah.
He sees the art coming to life and he sees these people dying around him, and it's one after another, like just bam, bam, bam. And the more research he does, the more he realizes what's actually going on. And he knows he has to stop it, but doesn't know how.
Yeah.
He's way too far in then, I think.
Yeah. And he, he's a very prolific art critic. And when he's trying to get the other characters in the movie to listen to him and they don't want to, he's like, I'm going to write an article about, I'm going to expose everything. Everyone's like, it'll ruin your career. And he's like, I don't care. Yeah. Because he does, again, he has integrity as an art critic. Yes. Even if he is kind
really
of
did try to make it right. It just was a little too late for him.
Yeah, it was too late for everybody.
Yeah, it was.
Let's see what else I have in my notes here. Oh, so there's this weird art piece. It's not part of the Dees collection. It's called The Sphere. And you basically, you put your hands into it. You can listen to it. You can do all this stuff. And it's supposed to be like this.
Would you have put your hand in it? I just need to know. I don't think I would have.
I would have.
I don't know if I would.
I didn't know this
kind of freaked me out.
I don't know. I thought it was stupid, okay, to be clear. It's supposed to give you, like, multi-sensory, like, experiences.
Yeah, everybody has a different experience according to who they are and what they feel.
Yeah, whatever the sculpture intended, it was supposed to be, like, this prolific experience.
This cute little old lady walked out and she was like, I haven't felt that in years.
Yeah, take that as you will.
Uh-huh.
But with the introduction of Dees's art into the world, not just, these characters' houses, but the gallery itself, it starts to change the other art pieces as well. And one of the things that it manipulates is the sphere. Now, Toni Collette's character, her name is Rhodira, I think?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. All the people in this movie have ridiculous fake people names. It works, though. I don't know how they do it. She loves the sphere. It's actually, one of the pieces that she's really trying to push on people. She showcases it a lot.
Super excited about it.
Yeah. As well as the Dees stuff. But she keeps the sphere kind of center stage in the gallery as well. But again, Dees's art is changing everything else. So she ignores... What's his name again? Morph. Okay. It's so stupid. He warns her, but she blows him off. And she's one of the last people in the museum at this point. And she's like, I'm going to put my hand in the sphere.
Yeah, because she hadn't put her hand in there before.
No, she was. I think she was a little too good for it. But then she was like, I'm gonna finally do it, and then I'm going to go home. Well.
She doesn't go home.
She doesn't go home. It sucks her arm and rips it off, and she bleeds out and she dies. Yeah. Yeah. It's terrible. So so everyone kind of pokes fun at modern art, right? Like the splatters or the dots or the banana that was duct taped to the museum wall. All this shit. So one thing that one very poignant point that the movie makes is when Coco opens the museum for the Dees collection the next day, and everyone comes across Toni Collette's character's body and the blood that's pooled around the sphere, and they think it's part of the exhibit.
They do. They think it's modern art.
Yeah, they think it's part of the installation, and that is just a chef's kiss. It isn't until Coco sees it and starts fucking freaking out because, again, this is her third employer that she's an assistant for, and she finds her dead body again.
Poor girl.
Yeah,
after another.
Yeah, it's just. But that was a really poignant point that they made in the movie that I appreciated. It was pretty.
Like they brought in. They brought in a bunch of school kids. And they thought it was paint, so they were like stepping in it. And her blood. They were stepping in her pools of blood and playing in it. And it was bad.
You see how, and the visuals in this movie are really good too. I mean, not just the art, but the direction and everything like that. You see, this pristine gallery floor. It's like white marble or whatever, and you see the way that the foot tracks like through the blood and how it kind of spirals out, and it's just really effective. It's a really effective part of the movie. Very, very good. So, final thoughts about Velvet Buzzsaw.
Oh, and pay attention to the hobo. That's all I'm going to say. Just pay attention to the hobo. Little bit creepy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what we talked about today is haunted art, haunted liminal spaces with Ebe video game and with Velvet Buzzsaw the movie. I think that, they're both worth checking out. Ebe more than Velvet Buzzsaw, but if nothing else, you should watch Velvet Buzzsaw for Jake Gyllenhaal's performance. It's so good.
It is really good. I have this love-hate relationship, too, with Jake Gyllenhaal. Not just this character, but some movies I really love him in, and other movies I'm just like, meh. But this one, he really impressed me in it, and I giggled at some of his little quirks of his personality.
His
and
quips.
Yeah, definitely. So it's definitely worth watching just for that.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it is kind of just a neat little movie to watch. And not anything that, if you don't watch it, you're not going to, miss everything. But it would be worth seeing. Yeah, I didn't mind watching it.
It was definitely one of the more riskier takes that Netflix has done in the past. Because it's not for everybody.
No.
Like I said, it's kind of a highbrow, satirical black comedy. And it doesn't succeed at all of the things it tries to do. Like I said, it's a Hollywood movie preaching about exploitation. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But did you ever see Nightcrawler? It's a Jake Gyllenhaal movie about a journalist.
Yeah.
So it's the same director.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
So obviously this director has kind of an interest in talking about exploitation, not just of art, but, the paparazzi and the way that journalists sometimes will do anything to get a story.
Get the shot?
Yeah, get the shot, get the story.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Nightcrawler, everyone I've ever talked to, I haven't seen it personally, but everyone I've ever talked to has loved that movie. So
I like Nightcrawler. It's been a long time since I've watched it. Something
along the same veins to watch if you enjoyed that movie. Velvet Buzzsaw would be worth a watch too.
Yeah.
One thing that I was thinking about too when I watched Velvet Buzzsaw is how people talk about Vincent van Gogh. Because he was someone who we know now based on, his art and his journals and his family and everything like that. He was a very mentally ill person.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of romanticized. His mental illness is romanticized, not by everyone, but by a good number of people because they're like, oh, that's what made the art good. No, Vincent van Gogh made his best art when he was happy and healthy.
Yeah. Okay,
people talk about how he ate his paint. Like, that was when he was in a bad place.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, so I think it's just, there's something to be said about how, art can come from painful, deeply intimate places, but that's not the only place it comes from. No. And that's not what we should focus on.
No, you hear a lot about tortured artists, and that's very unfortunate to me. I've heard other people talk about, like, even singers on how, this album was so great when they were an addict, or this was so great when they were high, but now that they're sober, this is horrible. And that, to me, breaks my heart because they're struggling with their mental illness and they're get to where they're happy and they're clean or they're healthy, and then we berate them because
it's not
as good because it's not coming from that deep, painful place. Yeah. I find that sad that is how we look at things in our society at times. I agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah. So for sure, I mean, I just love how art causes, so many conversations. I mean, that's part of why we have the podcast, right? And horror especially comes from a lot of trauma a lot of times and how we deal with it. But there's ways to appreciate art without exploiting it. In Velvet Buzzsaw, they should have respected the man's wishes.
And destroyed it all.
And destroyed it all because, he deeply tortured person and, his art is how maybe he got it out.
But he didn't want to share it with everybody else.
No. And, even, I mean, most of the time, all of the time, we don't have supernatural repercussions for not, respecting, a dead person's wishes, but that doesn't make it any less important that we should,
No, I think the morality behind following someone's wishes is what's important.
Yeah, it's very important. So have you played Eve? Have you watched Velvet Buzzsaw? What were your thoughts?
Let us know for sure.
And let us know if, because of this podcast, you decide to play / watch these subjects, and tell us what you thought.
Definitely. We want to hear from you for sure.
What are we going to do our next episode on, Becky?
Ooh, I don't know yet. I guess it will be a surprise.
We were kind of talking about doing Phasmophobia, which is another video game,
I don't know. I think I'm scared.
Because we
scared
got
of that one.
VR headset that we might be really immersing ourselves into to play this game, which I'm a little scared too. Not gonna lie, I don't do well in VR, even non-scary VR. Yeah.
I know. I don't know. My kids say it's terrifying just playing it on the PC. I'm not sure I can submerge myself into it and not cry like a baby. I'm old. I might pee my pants.
We'll edit that out. So for that, not only will we be talking about the game, but we'll probably be if we decide to do it, which I'm sure we will. But we'll be recording ourselves so we can upload clips and have people laugh at how scared we are. So as much as we both love scary things, in certain respects, we are wimps. So we'll see how that goes.
Definitely. 100%.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Sydney Rebecca.
And I'm Rebecca Snow.
And we're the Becks.